Alrighty guys, welcome back to Feel Spirit. Hope you've been feeling spirit lately. And today I'm going to be talking about how far is too far and how far can you lethally kill a deer with a traditional bow. So this is a very abstract question and plagues the minds of a lot of traditional archers and a lot of archers in general, no matter whether it be compound or whether it be traditional archery. There is a ton of different answers for this question as you look on the internet, but I'm going to try to answer it as reasonably as possible. The first question you have to ask is, how far can you effectively shoot? And that's kind of my answer. How far can you effectively shoot? For me, 30 yards is about my max. That depends on the situation though. As you all know, I'm an instinctive archer, so a deer could be 16, 17 yards. And if I don't feel right about that shot, there's no point in me taking it because it's going to be a bad shot. A lot of the way I hunt is just based off of feel because of the instinctive part of things. If I don't feel right about taking that shot, or it don't feel right and it feels rushed or whatever, I shouldn't take that shot. If everything kind of feels right, then I will take that shot just because, you know, I feel as though I can make that shot. And that differs. I've passed up closer shots before, and on opening day last year, I passed up a shot on a doe at like 15 yards just because of the circumstances. But in the past, I've also shot a deer at 30 yards and took that shot because of the circumstances. It's all preference. It's all situational. You can't really give one specific answer because a lot of people are going to say different things. I know some people that won't shoot past 15 yards. I know some people that won't shoot past 20. I know some people that would tell me I'm crazy for shooting at a deer at 30 yards. It just depends on you and what you feel your capabilities are. One big question is, how long does it take the arrow to get there, and how much can a deer react before that arrow gets there? If they're going to duck your arrow, they're going to duck it at 10 yards, and you have a worse shot of you have a better shot of not making a poor shot at 30 yards than you do at 10. Because if they're going to duck anyway, you might hit too high, hit under the spine, graze the back, whatever. Deer might spin away, you might hit back at 10 yards. Then at 30 yards, you might miss the whole entire deer and the deer not get wounded. So a deer can react. Now, I'm not saying don't take the 10-yard shot. But what I'm saying is in that scenario, you're better off shooting at 30 yards because the deer can move out of the way and you're not going to make a bad shot. Whereas at 10, 15 yards, the deer is going to move a lot and it can heavily impact your impact point. So you really never know in that scenario how the deer is going to react. You can tell by how nervous they are, how much pressure they are, whatever, how they're going to react. Realistically, you never know how they're going to react. Are they going to just duck? Are they going to duck and spin? And one tip that'll help you is head up. Only shoot when their head's up. Stopping a deer and letting them stick their head up is better than them being head down feeding. Because when they're feeding, they're on edge anyway. No matter if they feel comfortable or not, that comfortable isn't fully comfortable. They're still paying attention to their surroundings and looking for danger. They're trying to survive. It's a survival instinct. If their heads are down, their legs are locked, or they're not legs are locked. Their legs are loaded. All they have to do is that front end can go straight down to the ground, and they can let gravity and the force of their legs shoot them down and then spin them away. If their heads are up, then their legs are locked. Their legs aren't loaded, so they have to load their legs before they can drop, and only the force of gravity can bring them down. As fast as their body can fall is as fast as their body can fall. It's going to take them longer to get out of the way when their heads are up than when their heads are down. That being said, we've taken into effect how far can you shoot accurately and how far, or realistically, the deer dropping. So again, some people won't shoot past 15, some people won't shoot past 20. I know people say 25, I know people say 30, and I know people that say, screw it, I'll shoot at them at 50. And for me, it's just situational. It's how I feel. If I feel like I can make that shot, I'm gonna take it. You know, one of the first deer I killed with my traditional bow was at 30 yards. Most of them that I've shot have been over 15. I think the first one was at 17, then one at 30, one at about 15, and one at about 20 to 25. The weight of your arrow is going to play a difference. If you have a really light arrow, your lethal zone is going to shrink because you have to hit through the ribs or you're not going to be able to plow through any tough tissues, any cartilages or anything like that. It's going to have a hard time. You're not going to get as much penetration. And what you're looking for in lethality is how fast and how hard that arrow can push through the deer. The quicker that arrow pushes through the deer and the sharper the broadhead is, the less the deer feels and the less the deer knows that it's been hit. Therefore, it might run out 50 yards and stop and then just stumble and die right there. Or if you got a light arrow and it sticks in and it sticks out that far, the deer's going to run because there's an arrow hanging out of it and it can see it and it can feel the arrow going hanging out of it. So then they're on a full tilt sprint. So that's a factor you have to look at. The biggest question is, what do you consider lethal? A lot of people don't know the anatomy of a deer. They just truly don't. A lot of people think that the heart is behind the shoulder and the lungs are behind the shoulder, when realistically that's not the case at all. The primary lobe of the lung is behind the shoulder. The half of the heart is behind the shoulder. Also, the shoulder isn't this square of tissue and bone. The shoulder, what we would consider the shoulder, is comprised of two bones. You have, I forget the name of the bone, it might be the humerus, and then you have the scapula. The scapula is right here and it's angled like this and it comes out into the shoulder blade. The shoulder blade is the easiest part to punch through because it is a thin piece of bone. However, there's a ridge in the middle and it kind of goes straight like this, but there's a ridge in the middle where it does that, and that would probably be the worst place to hit because you have that much bone to shoot through. The joint in between those two is probably the second worst place to hit because number one, it's that big around, but number two, it's the toughest spot on the deer. And then that main humerus bone, I think that's what it's called, I think it's the humerus, that is the thickest bone in the shoulder. That's a hard spot to hit, but if you hit it, there's still a pretty good chance with the right arrow setup that you're going to blow right through it. With a heavier arrow, you're going to get a quieter bow as well. With a lighter arrow, you're going to get a louder bow as well. So getting to that 12 grains per inch, you're really going to quiet down that bow, or 12 grains per pound, I'm sorry. That 12 grains per pound is really going to quiet down that bow. 10, it's going to be somewhat quiet. If you're below 10, the bow is going to be as loud as it can possibly be. You know, you can take preventions like putting good silencers, good strings, putting other silencing materials on the bow to make sure it has no sound at all. So that will affect your drop and how much the deer can hear and how the deer will react to the shot. I'm going to show you what I determine as lethal in the lethal area, and then I'm going to go back to each yardage. I've already shot once today. I just got done cutting brush, so I'm probably not going to shoot as good as I normally would. However, I'm going to go back to 30, 35, maybe even 40 yards and shoot at the target. I've got the GoPro at the target and I'll time them, and you can see how fast the arrow gets there so that you can judge based off that how much you would think a deer would move in that area, and I'll see how I'm hitting in that lethal zone. So first off, I'll show what I consider the lethal zone. So essentially, the leg runs up. Your heart is going to be in this area right here, halfway behind this humerus bone that comes up right here, and then behind the scapula, which sits about right here. So there's essentially a V right here, and that right here is your vital V. This is where you want to hit. You want to hit almost straight up the leg, right on the edge of the leg. You essentially want to hit right there. So, you know, as you can see, this target's been shot through a bunch. So what I'm looking for is any impact from about right here, then the lungs come out and they come up like this, and then they come back forward. That's kind of why I really like this Real Wild 3D target, because it shows the lung coming up all the way as far as they do, and it's about right here where the last rib would be. But the only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't show the correct angle of the lungs. The lungs reside about like this. They angle like that and come up. So this right here, the ribs do this, and this right here would be stomach. So if you hit a deer right here, you're probably cutting through the stomach. Anywhere in here is probably stomach. And then you have the liver, and then the lungs would be about right here. Realistically, where you want to aim, because every deer is going to duck no matter what. They hardly ever stand in one spot. you want to be shooting for about right here. And that way, when they duck, if that arrow will impact about right there. And you're going to go through both primary lobes of the lung. So the first shot I'm going to shoot here is at 10 yards, and realistically this is about how close I want to be to a deer. It's the most effective for making sure the arrow's got time to straighten up, and also that the deer can't move that far out of the way. And if you're in a tree stand at 10 yards, you're probably not going to be shooting straight down like this. You're at least going to be at somewhat of an angle, and you can more comfortably take that shot and make it. And it blew right through the kill zone. So I'm gonna step back to 15 yards, then I'm gonna go to 20, then I'm gonna go to 25, then I'm gonna go to 30. I might even go past 30. As you can see there at 10 yards, you know, the arrow got there rather quickly. So again at 15. Just a touch back, about that far back, I believe that would have been in the lung area. So I'm gonna grab the arrows and we're gonna go back to 20. All right, so now we're here at 20 yards, and you'll be able to hear and see how long it takes for the arrow to get there. But actually that last arrow kind of kicked out like this, so it wasn't as far back as I thought. So I probably would have caught the back of the heart, bottom of the lungs. And again, the lungs is made of 3 lobes, and you want to be in that very front primary lobe where it's the thickest. If you hit it in the very back of the lungs, a deer can run off the, it'll take so much longer for the lungs to fill up with blood because there's 3 different lobes, and the primary lobe being the main one, if you take that one out, then they can't breathe at all. So this is 20. And the arrow blew through the target, so we'll go back to 25. So this here's 25 yards. Also, this is no warm-up either. So this would be very close to a realistic hunting standpoint. So this is 25 yards. It's a bad draw. I would have made a bad shot. If you feel that, just let down and redo it. Ooh, that one was kind of a bad shot. I am starting to get weak. I just got back from cutting brush, but I was slightly high on a better day where I wouldn't be feeling that weak, and I wouldn't be also starving, but I'm trying to get this video recorded before I run back inside. That would have probably been a better shot, but I will go ahead and take another one, and then we'll move back to 30. I was shooting earlier today, and I was hitting the white and the dot of that dice target, so I know at 25, I'm good for that. I still want to demonstrate it because that last shot was too high. It's unacceptable. And that was a lot better shot. That was right in the V. So now I'm gonna step back to 35 or 30. So this is 30 yards. I don't know why I let that go. I was not on. I'm gonna redo that. So I target panicked that one a little bit, but still wasn't a horrible shot. I was just about that far back from what I would consider a double lung, maybe just a tad high, but I wasn't perfectly on, and I shouldn't have let that shot go. I should have let down like I had before. And that's a perfect shot, so I'll move back to 35. So now we're really getting back far. This is a shot I probably would not take just because this is a long ways, and you'll see how long this arrow takes to get there. The deer could be completely in another state by the time this arrow gets there. This is also about a 650 grain arrow, 630 I think's what it evened out to. So I hit a little low. Let me try that again. I'm also running out of camera battery pretty quickly, so I'm gonna try to hurry this up. But I'm gonna shoot one more here at 35, and if it doesn't hit well, then I'll go ahead and go back to 40, and then we'll see. I know I can make this shot, just not every time. So that was straight on line, just a little low, but I'll move back to 40. Okay, so this is about 40 yards, and this is just for the heck of it, to see where I hit. I'll hardly ever shoot 35 yards. Sometimes I'll come back here to 40 just to fling some arrows, just because shooting here at 40 makes it easier at 15, makes it easier at 20, makes it easier at 10. Shooting from back here makes up there seem like you're shooting right, and I mean, like you're right up against it. It makes you feel a lot more confident. I can't tell exactly where that hit, so I'm gonna look real quick. So both my shots at distance dropped low, but they were within that kill range left and right, as long as I practiced and brought that back up, because this year I am using or last year I used a heavier arrow than I normally use. So it's only fair that my instincts are still, I didn't practice back here hardly any last year. So it's only fair that my instincts are still shooting that 550 grain arrow, which probably would have put me a lot closer in there. That being said, a little bit more practice and I could probably make that shot 9 out of 10 times in that effective lethal range. That being said, it's up to you. You've seen how long it took. You know, this is a modern takedown bow, shooting a 650, 630, 650 grain arrow. It shows you how long it took to get there. No, it takes a while from range for that arrow to get there. It also means less noise that the deer can hear from that far. So realistically, it's up to you. For me, it's on feel. If I practiced from here more and got to where I could shoot consistent that far, and I felt like a deer had no clue I was in the world, there was a little bit of wind, and it was just milling along, especially a buck in rut, he's not gonna pay attention when that bow goes off. He might, what was that? But it's not a loud enough noise to scare him to crap. So that being said, if I could make that shot 9 times out of 10 from 40 yards, and you know, I would do that from my knees or whatever to get realistic to the scenarios possible. If I could make that shot every time and I felt like that deer wouldn't move or jump the string, I would 100% shoot that animal. You know, you're still getting the velocity and the momentum. You know, that's where a heavier arrow comes into play. That momentum's really going to carry out all the way there, and you're still going to get plenty of penetration, probably enough penetration for a pass through even at this distance. And my best shot out of all of those was 30 yards. I'm a lot better at 30 yards because it brings that sight picture so much closer to the target. If I was to aim with the same shooting that I do now, that would be close to my point on distance. So it's a lot easier to reference. It's a lot easier for my mind to pick up that reference and make that shot count. But that being said, for me, 30 yards is about my max, but depending on the situation, 20 yards might be my max. 15 yards might be my max. 40 yards might be my max. I've passed up a deer at 40 yards, really nice 8-pointer, just because I didn't feel like I'd hit him. Felt like he would be long gone before they ever got there. Realistically, it's up to you. I would say don't shoot past 30. If you wanted a direct answer, I would say don't shoot past 30. I'd say 30 is about your maximum distance. For pressured deer, I probably wouldn't shoot past 20 because they're going to be gone before it ever gets there. The quieter the bow, the better. Trade the sound of your bow for the speed of the arrow. A deer is a lot less likely to react to a slight sound than a loud sound, and even though the arrow might be faster, that deer might move a lot more before the arrow even gets there. So that being said, my max distance is probably about 30 yards, but for me it's situational. If you want a recommendation, I would say 20 to 30 yards should probably be your max, depending on how long you've been practicing. I've been shooting for quite a few years now. You know, I've had experience hunting. If you're shooting your first deer with a traditional bow, I would say don't shoot past 20. If you're a little bit more experienced and you practice out to 30, I would say 30 is about your maximum effective range. But in that moment, if you draw that bow back and it does not feel right, please don't let that arrow go. More than likely you're going to make a bad shot, and you know, you owe it to the animal, and you owe it to yourself to be disciplined and have that self-control and not sling an arrow. Last year I did shoot out a spike at like 35-40. In my defense, he was in a wide open space and it looked to me like he was 30. So shooting instinctive, I just naturally held for what I thought would have been 30, and the arrow hit about like right here under his chest. Had I honestly known that he was 35-40 yards, I probably still would have took that shot and I would have killed the deer. He didn't duck hardly at all because I was that far away, and that ossible was so quiet that I don't feel like he would have moved, and I feel like I would have 100% killed a deer. You know, if I'd have been that much higher, it would have passed right through his heart, and you know, I'd have been eating back straps that night. So that being said, it's up to you. Thank the Lord for a beautiful day. I'm gonna get inside and eat, shower, because I need it bad. I'm starving. That's probably what affected my shooting at distance too, because I already feel weak and I didn't shoot like 10 shots. So anyway, y'all stay tuned for the next one, and I'm going to be pumping out some videos here because YouTube is, the algorithm is quantity over quality, and for right now, in these videos like this, it's hard for me to produce as many of them if I was to hyper edit all of them and put all these crazy edits. So, you know, the people that's going to watch these videos anyway probably want to just learn. So even though it's just me talking and shooting, it's all I'm going to put in these videos. I'm going to try to pump as many of them out, and then, you know, I'll have some projects that I work on in between then. Like, you know, I've been trying to kill a crown hog and stuff like that. Might even try to go kill a squirrel come September and have that, have some bigger projects to work on in the meantime. But just to have videos to upload, I'm just going to upload stuff like this. And so if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. Like the video, comment, that helps push my videos out. And yeah, see you guys in the next one.